Welcome to one more episode of the Art of Being podcast. I'm thrilled to chat with our next guest, Arliss Dudley-Cash. She's with Solutions, which has been like for over 2 years, and she's in the field for over 3 years. She previously worked as a neuroscience research deputy coordinator, wow, and a lecturer at the University of California. Merced? Yep. She's engaged to Matthew. Arliss has 3 fur babies, Tonks, Fluffy, and Mooney. The Chihuahua have their own following on Facebook. I gotta follow them. She enjoys reading and going for walks. She resides on the big island of Hawaii. Her burning desire is to share joy and happiness with others and inspire positivity. Something no one here knows about her is that she has been studying to be a minister for over 4 years. Her keys to success are being willing to think outside of the box and keep a positive outlook while doing so. Arliss' dream is for each of us to become the loves of our lives. So I'm super thrilled to have this conversation about her journey dealing with being diagnosed with a genetic condition, and it was told that was terminal. Wow. And now she's like thriving. She is doing so much. I can't wait to hear all of that and her journey. Welcome, Arliss.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to be a part of this amazing podcast.
Oh, thank you. I cannot even imagine like how you were diagnosed with this terminal disease, I would say, and now you are so amazing, successful business owner, inspiring others, having your own podcast, have like running conferences. How did you become this power woman when you were diagnosed that you were, gonna die?
Yeah. So the condition that I was diagnosed with is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And the condition within itself is actually not terminal. But when I was diagnosed, I was so sick at the time, and I had progressed so far into the disease that I was told that it was very unlikely that I would live more than a year. And when that happened, it was absolutely devastating. It took me about 6 months of grieving to even decide to really start fighting for my life. And it took a lot of changes. And one of the biggest changes that it took was learning to be gentle to myself and also taking on a positive mindset. So before that, I faked positivity very well. I think that most people would have said that I was one of the most positive people that they knew, but my internal dialogue was very, very negative. I used to negatively motivate myself. And I used to use really negative language to talk to myself. And what I realized when I was going through the healing process to become as healthy as I am today is that in order for my body to really support me in health, I had to support my body and mind with believing and knowing positive about it. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a powerhouse now is because I really do believe that anything is possible. Overcoming a terminal diagnosis is enough of a kick in the pants to say anything's possible. And so now when I move through things, I really do it from a positive mindset. And I also do it from a place of being gentle and loving towards myself first. Because when we fill our cup first, we're able to give much more than we could ever imagine.
Amen to that, sister. So how old were you when you were diagnosed with this?
I was diagnosed when I was 28 years old, and I am 36 now.
Wow. So like in the peak of your youth, and then it comes with this diagnosis. So tell me about the faking positivity, because That's very interesting. Myself, my story, I also consider myself a super positive person in the past until I was diagnosed that I had depression. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm the most positive person, and you're telling me that I have depression? No way, Jose, But I didn't realize that there was a negative self-talk running into my head, and I didn't know. I was not aware of that. So how did you shift your mind to not fake anymore? And now you are being a really positive, even have a podcast that it's called that. How did you?
The biggest shift was just starting to notice when I was negative. So before it was so normal to me to be negative about myself, negative towards myself, or be thinking about the worst possibilities of situations that I didn't even recognize that it was negative. It was normal. And so the first step that I had to take was just being able to know if something was negative or not, and being willing to sit with a thought and really think about whether that was positive, neutral, or negative. And I think that that's a really key step in the process. It's really easy to want to bystep, or go past that step and go right into switching our thoughts to be as positive as possible. But the problem is that if we don't really sit and look at and listen to what the negativity is happening, we might miss some of the negative thoughts that we're having, and just keep them there as normal. So that was the very first step that I had to make. And I think that it's a huge step towards being in a more positive state. And I highly recommend it for anyone that's listening to just start noticing, what are your thoughts, with curiosity, no judgment. And then if they are negative, just put a flag in it, like, oh, well, that's negative. And then you can go back and decide later what a positive alternative might be.
Wow. How did it affect your body physically? Because my guess is it affected your physical body.
Absolutely. So when we speak negatively towards ourselves, our brains hear that, and our cells in our body hear that too. Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn has done biochemistry research that show that when we speak negatively to ourselves, our cells hear that and they start to have a stress response. And part of that stress response is to wear down the ends of our DNA, which are called the telomeres. And those telomeres are so critically important for living long and healthy lives. And so if we're continually talking negatively to ourselves, and our cells are hearing that and having a stress response, then it puts our body into a stress response. And it inhibits our ability to live long and healthy lives. So when I started to speak positively to myself and recognize when that negativity was present and choosing an alternative, I start to get healthier. I experienced greater health. Now, I'm not saying that just speaking positively to yourself is a cure-all for everything. I still went and saw doctors. I had surgeries. I took specific medications. I did massage therapy. I did acupuncture and chiropractor. So I did a lot of different things. And speaking positively to myself did support my cells in creating a positive homeostasis for my body.
Wow. Yeah. So it's not just like, hey, talking positive, and then everything's going to change, right? It's really this transformation that comes from inside out. But we got to start from somewhere, right? And I love when you said being aware of your thoughts is the first step, because for me it was. I remember going to a therapy, and it was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's when I started realizing what thought was going. And at that point, I remember when I was a psychiatrist and they were trying medication on me, she didn't want me to go to see a psychologist yet because I was such excruciating pain that she said there is no way you can sit in front of a therapist in the chair and hear and absorb anything, because my nervous system was like on fire, like 24/7, right? I was in the breaks of like just screaming and crying in pain all the time. It's like, let's have your nervous system come down a little bit so your pain is not as much. And then you can sit and start working on yourself. And I became like fascinated by CBT, and I was like, whoa, this is how I'm thinking. This is how I could reframe it, right? And that's how I got into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, as well. And it was like the first step that transformed my life. And yes, I totally agree with you. I saw many doctors. That was not like, sorry, okay, now you need to skip all the doctors. No, you need to continue doing that. It's both, right? The holistic approach as well. It's body, mind, and spirit. That's how I say it's the whole package. It's not just one, right? So tell me about how you're a business coach. How did you become a business coach? But you also do a positively body, like you have a podcast. So how does that come all together? Business coach with that? Tell me.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to be a director of operations for a large company here in Hawaii a few years back. And I got to wear all the different hats in business. And I just really fell in love with business. And I really fell in love with entrepreneurs and that challenge that they have to really build a business that they feel aligned with, that they are living their passion through, and that is really serving their community. And so after I finished that job, I went back to school because I'm such a nerd. I can't keep myself out of school, it seems. And I got my MBA in a year. So I did a very intensive training program to get my master's in business administration. And I fell in love with business even more, getting down to the nitty gritty, all the different components. And I realized that one of the things that business owners do not typically do is really take care of themselves, is really be gentle and compassionate with themselves and really show love and care towards themselves while they're growing their business. And so I love guiding and coaching, consulting with businesses to grow their business, to become more profitable, to reach wider markets and launch new programs. And I really enjoy supporting entrepreneurs in loving themselves through that process. And one of the things that I bring to that coaching is my neuroscience background and really giving entrepreneurs the scientific data to support why loving yourself through that process is really going to help you enjoy far greater success than if you were to negatively motivate or beat up on yourself along the way. So how does that relate to body positivity? Well, body positivity is just one aspect of how we can love ourselves. And my co-host, Diana Grimion, and I, we were having these amazing conversations about body positivity and our journey. And we decided like, hey, this needs to be a bigger conversation. We need to make this a podcast and do conferences and summits so that we can make the conversation around our bodies more normal. And what I mean by that is just having conversations about how we feel about our body normal. I don't know that there is any norm around bodies specifically. Yeah. And so that's why we started the podcast, is because I've never met a single person that didn't have some kind of negative feeling about their body at some point, either because of the negative things they said to themselves or the negative things that were said to them about their body. And it's time to heal that. And one of the ways that we can heal that is by talking about it and by getting wisdom and expertise by others who have healed it along the way.
So do you, because I'm pretty sure you're interviewing a lot of women, right, with that. And a lot of women tend to be very hard on our body, and yet society is also putting views of what is normal, what is not normal. Like you said, I came from Los Angeles, is very body image over there is very strong, and people judge. It's like a real thing. It's like, so we have this judgmental towards ourselves, but you also have people, things, and from outside of us judging ourselves as well. So we are constantly like comparing ourselves with what is out there, and I'm pretty sure that affected me physically and mentally, emotionally, really affected, that I didn't even realize until I moved from Los Angeles to Hawaii, that pressure was affecting my mental state of mind. And because it was affecting my mental state of mind, my physical was also being affected, right? I was having pain in my body. So it's like a circle, right? You go from, what do you see that is a breakthrough with women that is out there, and they are in that environment that it gives a pressure from outside, but we also have the pressure inside towards ourselves. What is the breakthrough?
Yeah. One thing to really consider is what we consume impacts our mind and body. And so when I say that, most people think, well, food or drink or supplements or things like that. Like those are the things that I consume. And we also consume media. We consume videos. We consume movies and songs, and we consume what we read, and we consume what we hear. So we have to get really, really mindful about what are we consuming. And this has to do with, what are we watching on the TV? What are we listening to on the radio? And who are we surrounding ourselves with? And what kind of dialogue are they having about their bodies? You might not even be listening to things that are specifically negative towards you, but if you're watching a program where people are using self-deprecating humor or backhanded compliments, or you're around people that speak negatively about their body all the time, you are consuming that. You are internalizing that into your own body and mind. And so the biggest breakthrough I can say is get really mindful about it. Get really choosy about what you allow into your mind, what you allow to be consumed with your eyes and your ears, and who you're around. And if you are around somebody that's using negative, self-deprecating humor or talking negatively about their body, encourage them to be more positive. If that's somebody that you want to have in your life, encourage them to be more positive. So getting mindful about what we consume in all ways is life-changing. That is a huge breakthrough.
Wow. Yes. I totally can see that, because when I remove myself from that environment, it changed, right? I could feel my body relaxing when I arrived in Hawaii, that there was no judgment from like what I was wearing, how much I weigh or what I was driving. There's like, the LA was very, for me, around myself was very toxic in that area, because the environment, like you're saying, who do you surround yourself with, right? So for me, I was immersed into that mentality in Los Angeles, in the area that was very much body image, and image in general was everything. So yeah, I could totally see when I removed myself from that, things start changing. And that's hard sometimes when you don't have that opportunity, right? To remove yourself from that environment. But you can choose what you're listening to. You can choose what you're watching to. So there's still something that you can do, even though you cannot just pack your bags and move out of your physical environment, right? You can choose to, who are your friends? What magazines are you looking and reading? YouTube channels and all of that. Those we have a choice, right? Those we have a choice. So I love that where people out there that think, oh, but I live here, how I'm going to pack my bags and move. Well, there's other things that you can do that you have a choice. There's always a choice right there, right? So I wanted to be encourage people, look really, and it's hard. It's really hard. I had distanced myself from a few good friends, and it was very hard to like, wow, this is not serving me well. This person is very negative and it's affecting me. And it's not easy. I had to go through a mourning period for me to know this is good for me. This is a self-love attitude that I said, this is me loving myself, that I need to distance myself from this person who is so negative and toxic, right? So I'm sure you see a lot of people that have difficulty to say goodbye to some people that have been in their life for a very long time, but it's not good for them.
Absolutely. It can be really hard. And one thing that can be really hard is just to see how much that negativity is impacting them and really how people are suffering. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the biggest things we can do is to try to release judgment around where somebody else is. You know, we're all trying our best. Even the people that we might look at and say, wow, they're really making a mistake, or they're messing up, or whatever, you know, judgment we would put on that, they're still trying their best. And trust me that if somebody is really critical of somebody, they're 10, 100, 1,000 times more critical of themselves on the inside. So making the decision that a relationship no longer supports you is a very hard decision to make. And it's one of the most profound acts of self-love that you can choose, because it's really choosing yourself as the focus of your own choice around positivity. So, I would say, try to withhold judgment of the other person, know that they are trying their best. And if you're, at the point where you need to release that relationship, do it in as kind of and compassionate way, and still uphold your boundary. Boundaries are an act of self-love.
Oh my goodness. Amen. Yes. Boundaries. I had one coaching client of mine that she was having a lot of suffering. And I realized it was boundaries that she was not putting in her life towards, like, with her family, with her friends, with, people around her. She was not putting boundaries in her life. She didn't even know how to do that. And once she started doing, she saw a huge shift. She felt more empowered. It's amazing how when we say no to certain situations, circumstance, or people, we are actually saying yes to ourselves, right? And like you said, we can do that in a loving way. As over here in Hawaii, we say ho'oponopono, right? And that is like really giving love to the people that we are cutting cords. And I love when I started learning that here in Hawaii, and I went deep into that because I had so many cords that was attached that I did not put boundaries on that. And it was really bringing me down. But doing that, I always thought, oh, if I'm going to cut my energetic and spiritual cords, I'm cutting relationship with that person. And it's not that we are cutting relationship with the person, but it's putting boundaries. It's saying, like, no, this is my person. I'm going to respect myself. And when we respect ourselves, others learn how to respect us. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, absolutely. The way that we treat ourselves is how we're training others to treat us.
Definitely. And I think that is one huge point for a lot of people to understand. If we don't teach other people how to respect us, they don't know. They don't know how to respect us. And we are our first step of teaching is respecting us. And it's not being selfish. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm being selfish. No, it's not being selfish. It's self-love, self-caring, and it's teaching other people the respect that we want for ourselves. But it needs to start with us. Isn't it amazing? Everything starts with us. It doesn't matter in this conversation. I think there's a theme here. Everything starts with us, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. So what is your goals for the rest of the year, for next year? Tell us what is exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm getting married in 2 weeks from today. So I'm super excited about that. I have an incredibly supportive partner who really supports me in living my dreams. And so I'm super excited about that. I think that my biggest goal for next year is to do more conferences and summits that are geared towards body positivity and towards business. Just because it's so powerful, bringing experts and light workers together in those areas is so powerful, and it can be transformative for the people that attend. And so I feel like I have an amazing skill at doing that. And so I plan to do more of that.
Woohoo, awesome. And congratulations on getting married. I love it. And okay, so if people wanted to connect with you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can always find me on Instagram at Arliss Dudley-Cash. And I have a website, which is solutions.com. And then I'm excellent, usually, at getting back at email, which is arliss@solutions.com. So those are all the ways that you can reach out to me.
Awesome. And leave us with one tip that you want every single woman out there to hear and listen and to embody.
One tip is to get in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and say as passionately as a lover would, I love you.
I felt that. Did you guys feel that? I felt that. Arliss, thank you so much for being here with me today. I truly appreciate you sharing your journey, your stories. You are full of expertise, and I believe the more we share, the more we heal, and also sharing is caring. So for all the beautiful listeners out there, if you resonated with me and wanted to have a conversation, head over my website, pattyhoyt.com, PATIHOYT, and send me a message or follow me on Instagram at Coach-Pati Hoyt. Until we meet again, remember, be the light and feel empowered. Aloha.